Alright guys, so it's time for the trailer breakdown of this next week's episode of American Horror Story 1984. They didn't give us a whole lot to go on, but let's just jump right into this and talk about what we see and what we can speculate going forward with this show.
Karma coming through that door and there's nothing we can do to stop it.
So obviously it looks like we're picking up exactly where we left off last week. And look, I said it in my review, I will say it here again. I love the fact that we're pretty much at the climax of this story. Now, how they decide to stretch it out and where they go from here is anybody's guess. One thing I have thought about and people have told me in the comment section is with the episode titles and some rumors and speculation about how this series is going to play out, it looks like the first 5 episodes or so is going to take place over the course of one night. Considering what we see later on in this preview, that's starting to look a little bit more likely, considering the fact that we're going to be spending at least a substantial part, if anything is to go on with this 30-second trailer, a substantial part of next week's episode in flashback mode, going over Mr. Jingles, his time in the psychiatric ward, and everything that he's been led to believe or that he did, how he's kind of gripped onto reality over the last 14 years, and what his character is really all about.
We like to think that there's always method behind madness.
Now this to me seems a little interesting. As I was saying, a lot of this episode, maybe even the next episode and the episode after that, is going to be a lot of flashbacks, a lot of telling you who Mr. Jingles is, and maybe who the Night Stalker is. It seems a little bit weird that we're focusing primarily on Mr. Jingles. I know he has a history here, but why is the Night Stalker involved? Maybe he's going to be much more important in the second half of this season, and understanding who he is and how he's connected to the broader world of American Horror Story. That's why we're introducing both of them in this episode. But with Mr. Jingles, going back, exploring who he is and what kind of brought him to do all those murders in the 1970s, if he even did it, as I said in my review, and I don't really feel like it's worth making a theory video about it, so I'll just kind of continuously say it until we know. I think Margaret was the one who killed. Jonas kind of remembered her. She was the last person that he saw, and then he was eventually hit by a car, died, and doesn't really remember anything else. He's haunting this campground, and everything that we've seen of Margaret seems really zealous, maybe even religious. The fact that we started this season with these camp counselors starting to get it on, and then eventually Mr. Jingles comes in and kills everybody. Maybe she had a mental breakdown. She's so religious that she just wouldn't really sit there and live with it or something, and whatever. And the idea that Mr. Jingles was convicted of this, and then over the last 14 years, he's been led to believe that he actually did this. And this is some of the stuff that we see later on in this trailer, but I'll get to that. But I really want to get to this next thing because I really want you guys to look at this and tell me what you think.
But some people are just evil.
Okay, so obviously that's played for effect, and this is definitely a flashback considering the character that we see, but my focus on who are we not seeing? That silhouette of the person listening in on the doctor, I really think that's Rita. I think that that is the nurse that is working in Camp Redwood, and she came across Mr. Jingles. They didn't really show or express how she got from one point to another, and you would think, he would kill her, but maybe he knows her. Maybe he is sympathetic to her. Maybe he doesn't want to hurt her, and that's the game that we're playing here. I'm not sure, but tell me what you think in the comment section below. That would be my biggest guess and a way to start kind of interconnecting all of this stuff and figuring out how all these characters are connected and what the story of this season is really going to be about. Okay, so one of the things I think we're supposed to take from this scene is that Mr. Jingles is reliving what he did that night. I'm just saying, I don't think that's Montana. Maybe I'm going crazy. Tell me in the comment section below. But I feel like one of the things is he's talking to the doctors and they're trying to get him to remember that night and exactly what he did. But it seems so staged. It seems so isolated from everything else that we know about what happened in that night in 1970 that this is one of the toppers I have for Margaret being the killer, is that he was framed, He was put in this psychiatric ward, and then they told him over and over and over again that he did this. And now he's starting to believe it himself, and he can see himself doing it that night and killing all these people. And that's one of the reasons he's lashing out in this way, and he's going specifically after Margaret. And as I said in my review, one of the reasons Margaret is having the Night Stalker hunt him down is because she knows that he is coming specifically for her for different reasons than anyone else suspects, but that is how I think all of this is really starting to play together. I don't know, as I said previously, how Rita plays into any of this, but I think it's going to be really interesting nevertheless. And then, of course, outside of just anything else that we can talk about from this episode besides the very last line, which I think is freaking hilarious, but obviously, we get to see a lot of shots of everything going on in the chaos. I think what's going to be broken up by all of the flashbacks to kind of put the story together. And this is one of the things they're going to do over the next couple episodes is the terrifying situation that these people are in and how are they going to survive the night before the police show up or for whatever reason. All this stuff kind of gets dispersed. Now, how is this going to last the next couple of episodes? I'm not entirely sure. I really hope this isn't the last part of the season and we're just going to have an entire season of teenagers running away from multiple killers in a campgrounds. I'm really hoping that even by the course of like the 5th or maybe even the 6th episode, we get away from the camp. We go to somewhere in the United States and we have a Halloween type of setup, or maybe, they kill off Mr. Jingles or something and he comes back in their dreams and then we're having a Nightmare on Elm Street type of situation. That would be really fun to explore. But honestly, I'm not entirely sure. You guys tell me what you think in the comment section below. But I just really want to comment on this last part.
What the hell are you doing down there, man? I'm dying.
So we see Xavier and Brooke tripping on something, and then they cut to what it looks like a booby trap or something. In movies where they have a hole in the ground and then spikes in the floor and then the person trips in there and ends up dying. Obviously, this is Jonas. I mean, that's one of the best things about this and why it's really funny is because this guy, we've seen him die before, he comes back, but he's obviously in pain and he doesn't know exactly what's going on, even though he knows now that he's kind of a ghost or a spirit, whatever it is, haunting the campgrounds and trying to put all this story together. I feel like that's one of the reasons this is funny, and I've had a couple people come at me in the comments talking about, I don't want American Horror Story to be funny, I want it to be scary. I really think it should be both. One of the best things about Ryan Murphy and his creative team is that they do know how to balance drama with comedy. And they know how to balance horror scares, jump scares, and all this other stuff that they've done for this show with lighthearted humor. And this is really what we need. It really helps this season be padded out in such a way that it makes it watchable and it makes it fun to rewatch it. It's just not a dire affair. One of the biggest things I hate, and I'm a huge fan of it, one of the biggest things I hate of The Walking Dead is that it's nothing but misery over and over and over again. And it's kind of hard to rewatch because, it's just misery porn at some points. And American Horror Story's never been like that. There's been funny moments amongst all the chaos. And we need more of that. I feel like it's the one thing that I expect when I watch American Horror Story every single season. I want to laugh a little bit. I want to have 1 or 2 jump scares or something an episode. And I want to have to sit around and think about how all of this nonsense is going to be put together and whether or not I like it. So, yeah, I will just say this. American Horror Story 1984, as much as I was kind of doubting it when I first saw the first episode or even leading up into this season, I'm liking it so far. I wonder if you guys are liking it just as much as I am, because I wasn't expecting this. I wasn't expecting, to have this much fun with this concept based on everything that they showed us and how the first episode went. But after this second episode, with the preview for the third episode and the promise for more to come and maybe even a big remix of the entire story thus far sometime later down this season, I'm gonna really be excited. Now, if the entire season is nothing but flashbacks trying to explain this one night, I will be mad. And I'm going to tell you guys that I'm going to be very mad. That's what they gave us last season. The first 3 episodes were interesting, building up to a grand story in the apocalypse, and then they took the next, 6 or so episodes just to tell flashback stories. Now, while it was interesting, it added to the lore of American Horror Story, the witches, the warlocks, murder house, hotel, they brought back characters and they gave us the crossover that we were all waiting for all of these years. Doing an entire flashback, building up the story, and not really dealing with the namesake of the original show that they're trying to tell, or the story they're trying to tell, to me, that was a little bit of a letdown. I really hope they don't do it this time around, and I feel like one of the reasons they didn't call it Camp Blood, Summer Camp, or whatever anybody really wanted them to call it, since, this became a big fan favorite story idea that they wanted them to do, is because they want to do more than just the summer camp, and we're just steamrolling through this so we can get to the broader story that they're trying to tell later down the line in this season. So, guys, what are your thoughts on this? Are you excited about the rest of American Horror Story 1984, or have the first 2 episodes really put you off and you're done watching it? Do you think I'm right? Do you think that this is going to be a lot of flashback episodes and then it's going to just be in the camp the whole time? Or would you like for them to, at some point, ditch the camp entirely and focus on, the American Horror Story version of the 1980s and the slasher genres in different formats than just summer camps? I would really like that. I want to hear what everyone's thoughts and opinions are in the comment section below. Hope everyone's having a fantastic day. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell over by the subscriber button to notify you every single time I upload. It's been real.